And of course, we've got the day coming up, and we are so pleased to have in our studio uh, Hughes S. Turner, U.S. Army veteran paratrooper, and SES Executive Director of RBA Regional Office. How are you?
I'm fine, Cliff. It's a pleasure being with you guys again.
Yeah, always a pleasure to have you. And we also are pleased to be joined by Rich Lopresti, U.S. Army veteran, Military Intelligence Command. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, thanks, Cliff.
Great.
It's good to be here.
Great to have you.
Thank you.
Got a great voice. All right. We're going to discuss something that is important because people need to know this. I want to give a little background, though, on Rich. U.S. Army veteran of the Military Intelligence Command, I guess began working as a Veterans Service Representative for the Department of Veterans Affairs in May of 2017 after a successful career in private industry as a Director of Operations for a lab-grown diamond manufacturer. Wow.
That's pretty cool.
It sure is. Since arriving at the VA, he's been a member of the Chicago Regional Office Transition Task Force and an initial member of the Local Leadership Development Program, and currently serves as one of the office's Military Sexual Trauma Coordinator. That sounds serious.
Yeah, we're trying to help the veterans who file claims for sexual trauma while they were in the military. So it's a very important program.
It certainly is. It certainly is. Tell me about that, Hughes, a little bit. I mean, that.
Well, if you recall, Cliff, we've had a couple of your shows focused on claims disability. That's an important topic, and we figured we'd revisit that. The reason why we have Rich here is Rich is one of those individuals who works these type of claims daily.
Wow.
And so he's intimately familiar with the process, the technical aspects, how difficult some of these claims are, and what's involved as he and his colleagues work through the various claim submissions on behalf of these veterans.
That's do we hear a lot? Well, obviously we do. Richie, you have to take care of these things, but we have PTSD. We have all kind of problems. But is yours specifically sexual trauma?
In addition to working regular claims, I'm one of the people at the RO that work military sexual trauma claims.
Okay, so you do both.
Yeah, I do both.
Yeah. How many different types are there?
For the military sexual trauma, it's a form of PTSD, and basically we take the military sexual trauma as an aspect of PTSD. So if someone was filing a claim, the claim is a claim for PTSD with MST. So we develop it that way, understanding it's a PTSD, but it's related to military sexual trauma, where some other PTSD would be some kind of a personal trauma or maybe combat-related incident. So it's just one of the categories under PTSD.
What brings that? Do we have any common situation here, Rich, that which would bring that on, the MSC?
It's not really a common situation throughout, but it being military sexual trauma was some type of event, whether it was a sexual assault or sexual harassment.
Okay. Okay. And how much of that could be a number of folks? I mean, a number of cases.
Yeah, we consistently see cases on a daily basis, and they take some time to complete. You have to be very thorough.
Yeah, sure.
We're thorough on all the cases, but to go through the records line by line, really to find out, the details of what had happened and how it related to the veteran service. Because what happens is the event happens in service. Well, their service doesn't end the next day, so they have to live with that.
Right.
So we look through the records to see whether there was performance problems afterwards, maybe, and sometimes it could be improvement in performance. Everybody deals with the trauma differently, so you really have to go through the records and see, what happened to this person from that point forward, and you need to also look back to see what their career was like prior to the event.
Is there anything common, Rich, that we can look on and see, okay, this is something that is very common with military sexual trauma?
I think
Because there's so many different things I'm thinking of. Is that,
yeah, and that's the thing. It's there's so many issues that can happen or that arise that there's not really a common thread, which is I think why we put it under PTSD and then categorize it as military sexual trauma.
Wow. I tell you, it's something. Hugh, join us on this. What do you have you had experience on this too?
In terms of processing these type of claims, no, I'm not a technical person.
But have you
that
seen?
regard.
Yeah.
But I think what we are noticing is increased awareness of situations like this, and people are more willing to come forward now with these type of cases. I'm not sure what has triggered that. I think the public is much more educated. I mean, there's some relationship, as I look at it, anecdotally, to the Me Too movement and things of that sort, in which people are raising these type of issues who have suffered as a result of these type of relational issues in their employ, or whether they were in the military, I think.
Interesting. Me Too movement may have something to do with this. Yeah. We have a call-in number, of course, 312-374-8130. This is a very interesting situation, and particularly since, Rich, we have so many more women, too. But before I go there, because it doesn't have to be women to women. I mean,
That's correct.
Yeah.
There's many cases that are men as well, and there's cases that we see veterans coming forward now that even from like the Vietnam era. So it's one of those things that, as Mr. Turner said, there's more awareness to the problem now than there was in the past. So finally, some of these soldiers that were or veterans that were in during that time are coming forward and filing claims for their due.
How far back can you go? Is there a statute of limitations? Or?
No, there's no statute of limitations.
Great,
so
okay.
we can take care of it, every veteran that files a
That
claim.
files a claim. That's excellent. Since, of course, Rich, since there's many more women in the service now than there were, and we see them graduating from West Point and Annapolis, which is a great thing.
Right.
What does that do, if anything? Has this been going on long enough? These women coming in with these high-ranking officers and so forth. Yeah,
I think maybe that helps people come forward more because there's more a mix of men and women in the services now.
Right.
So maybe there's a little bit more comfort there for people, for the women to come forward than maybe they had in the past. And then again, just more awareness across the general population and acceptance of the fact that these things happen, I think is also one of those things that, it makes it easier for people to come forward. Not that it's easy in any way, but at least there's the environment is such that maybe they can come forward a little bit easier.
Is it any easier than civilian life? You know what he was looking for.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think what it does point out is that nobody's immune, and everybody is at risk, regardless of whether they're in the private sector or in government in uniform or in government in a civilian capacity. There's always the potential for abuse. And as a result of that, harm is realized by folks who are victims.
It's just great, in my opinion, Rich, that everybody can know that there is a way of addressing this problem. And if, in your experience, Are people usually satisfied with what happens as a result?
Yeah, I think they
You
are.
think they are? Okay.
Absolutely. You know, we go into great detail to help the veteran out to build their case for them. So we'll ask them for as much detail as they can give us, and then we will look through their records, comb through their records line by line, both the personnel records and the service treatment records, their medical records, and really try to work hard for the veteran. And I think everybody has that awareness, not just for these type of claims, but for all claims. That's what we're there for. We're there to build the case, help the veteran build a very strong case so they get compensated.
There probably is no way, Hugh, to know if some folks don't come forward because the perpetrator was a superior officer or something like that, and they, yeah.
And I mean that which goes to credibility, and certainly also in many cases, I think Rich can talk to this a lot more than I can. The feeling of shame, and how much do you want to disclose, and who else knows, and who else will now know as a result of you stepping forward.
Right.
We still have those barriers to overcome.
Yeah, psychologically, I'm sure. Yeah, go ahead, Rich.
I've had some cases where, like, maybe someone would contact me in January and discuss coming forward and putting in a claim, and then you won't hear anything for a month or so, and then you might hear from them again, and they want to take the next step, and then you won't hear from them for another month. So for some of these people, it's been very difficult for them to come out because
of course,
it's just real difficult. And then going through the process, in a way, they're reliving it because they have to tell us their story and point to some facts, and it's very difficult.
And then other people finding out about it and so forth. Yeah. Do you have any statistics that you might have, Rich, with same sex as opposed to the other?
I don't have any statistics, but
you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, but from claims that I've worked, I would say personally the claims I've worked, it's pretty equal.
Is that right? Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So it happens to both sexes.
Both sexes. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not exclusive to one or the other, and it doesn't seem to be. And again, I'm a small sample size.
No, I understand.
It doesn't seem to be. More a majority either way.
That is so important. That. Hugh.
There's another aspect to this
Sure.
too, and that is for individuals like Rich who actually work with these claims
Dealing with it.
day in and day out, and so they are also, living these cases much like the victims. And a combat analogy, as an infantry guy on the front line, this exposure to this type of stuff, which can take its toll also on the claims processor, I think. It's a difficult case.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. I listen like a pastor. Listen to I mean, my goodness. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
Yeah, there's some times where...
Respond to that, please.
Yeah, there's been times when those claims were the only claims I've worked in a day. So you're reading those type of stories 2, 3, 4, 5 times a day. Those are, you come home a little bit different than the days where maybe everything goes really smooth,
well. Yeah.
But that's what we're there for, and that's we're there to help, and that's what it takes to help.
Who helps you?
Oh, I have a family. I have a family, and the coworkers too. I mean, people understand what we're doing.
Yeah. Just listening to that, day in and day out has got to be. Well, that's what you're there for. It's like being a physician or a psychologist or whatever. I mean,
But again, you raise an interesting question, and the issue and topic of resiliency comes to mind. It's like somebody being on the front line. You're constantly under fire, and how you deal with that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, how often can you continue that? We have a call-in number 312-374-8130. This is very, very important, and of course, with Veterans Day coming up, we want to talk about anything having to do with veterans, and particularly, we've got such great folks who come in here to America's Heroes Group and give us some great information. And one of the great things about this show is there are things that we don't back off of anything, and a lot of people, Rich, wouldn't even think of this. You know what I mean?
I understand.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and particularly the numbers that not only numbers, but who you can help, and you help everybody. You do what needs to be done.
That's exactly right. We try to help
you
every single
everybody.
veteran.
Yeah, and that's what's so important, that folks understand that, because this filing Veterans Affairs disability claims for service-connected injuries is something that really needs to be looked at, and military sexual trauma is there, and we are pleased to know that there's a coordinator who takes care of the situation. Because if people hear that and think that, Mr. Lopresti, to think that this can happen and there's not going to be any help, a lot of people aren't going to want to know, well, that's something we need to be.
Yeah, that would be terrible, and,
Yeah.
and that's why we want to get the word out that there's a big effort there to help those veterans. Where we're trying to improve the processes across the line, but this is one that's been really a focal point in the past year or so.
Is that because it's increasing?
I think it's possibly because it's increasing. Maybe, Mr. Turner.
You?
I wouldn't necessarily characterize it that it's increasing. Again, it goes to the issue of awareness and the comfort level that we have societally to be able to confront and discuss these now much more openly. And so people, I think, stepping forward, So, to say, well, it's happened with more frequency, I couldn't say that it happens more today than it did 10 years ago. Maybe it's always been there.
Yeah.
It's just that we've never dealt with it or confronted it.
And now people, they feel much more easier to talk about it. That's interesting. We have a caller, Sergio. Thank you for calling WVON America's Heroes Group.
Hey, Cliff, how you doing, my man?
I'm fine, thank you, sir.
Good. I was the reason for my call is because I'm listening to you, and I could only think back right before I went in the battle, in the combat, and I wish that people would really understand what it is when you're actually going into battle and how you feel. Me, I was like, I wonder what my mom is doing right now. If she knew what I was about to do, she would tell me, stop it. Don't go in there.
Wow.
You're going to get hurt. And I just wanted to make that point so that the veterans, this is the reason why I guess, we're always looking for a little bit of recognition and respect, because of, you know how it is, Cliff. You could have been hit 1 inch to the other way and you could be gone.
It's true.
And I don't know. I just, I'm all right, but I think about that once in a while, when I sit alone, and sometimes, and I think, man, I'm blessed to be here. I really am blessed to be here. I mean, I could hear the rounds hitting the tanks to the side of us and everything, and I'm thinking, I'm really blessed to be here. And sometimes when you're listening to things where people disrespect veterans, it's a little bit troubling and hurtful,
Not Sergio, you're blessed to be here, and we're blessed to have you here, because that is extremely important, what you're saying. I know folks who have made commitments never to talk about what they went through. They just don't do it. I know a number of folks who are like that. If you bring up if you bring up anything that they experienced during combat, they will shut you down in a second. They don't want to deal with it. But they're not sick. This is.
Yeah, you just harbor it inside, because I felt that way my first 3-4 years. because I didn't want to feel that way. I didn't want to go back there because I didn't like the feeling of you're lucky to be alive. You should be dead. So I didn't want to go back there and experience that feeling. But as time went on, I was more open, and now I can talk about it.
Which is great. And I like what you said. Your mom would say, "Stop it."
Yeah, she was looking at it like being out in the streets here in the city and saying, "Get back in your house. Don't you know you could get hurt?"
Yeah, that's right.
Cliff, tell him the producer wants his number.
Hey, Cliff, I love you, man, for speaking up for us, brother.
Listen,
I love you.
I love you too. Hold on 1 second. What did you say?
Information, tell him to stay on the line.
Oh, stay on the line. Stay on the line, Sergio. Okay?
All right.
All right, and thank you so much. Love you also. You're great. Thank you for calling. That is very interesting, isn't it?
Well, for those of us who've been in combat, there's that piece.
Yeah.
But there's another piece in which it continues to build and build over time. And then all of a sudden it just comes out. And I think that sometimes, again, that's that challenge. You don't want to talk about it, but it's still with you.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you deal with that? Also, as a senior officer, I mean, it's one thing to be on the line in direct action missions with an opposing force. But sometimes, what I found myself as a senior leader is the decision-making process, knowing that you're going to make a decision that's going to impact somebody's life or lives, either because somebody's going to get injured or somebody's going to be killed, and wrestling with the decision or recommendation that you made, which led to a decision which resulted in that action.
No, you're right. It's unbelievable responsibility, and that's why we should respect veterans to any degree that we can, and that's why I'm just so happy that we have people, that are doing what you're doing, U.S. Turner and Rich Lopresti, and it's going to continue.
Yeah, it certainly does.
Yeah, it's going to continue, and thank goodness for people. Rich, this is really something. Give us 1 minute end, would you, Rich?
Excuse
yeah,
me?
Just give us a one minute end.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, just.
What I'd like to say most is, if you're a veteran out there that wants to file a claim, get your documentation together, whatever you have.
Okay.
That's the most important thing.
Okay.
It's the fastest way you'll get a result. If you have your paperwork together, if you provide to us as much detail as possible, it's less we have to go back and ask you for or ask other places for, other agencies, and we can process your claim in a faster amount of time.
Pleasure to have you here.
Great to be here.
Thank you so much.